Well, today is tax day, the final deadline to file your return or request an extension. If you waited until the last minute, you are not alone, but there are important steps to take now to avoid penalties, maximize your refund, and make sure everything is filed correctly so you don't get audited. Jackson Hewitt's Chief Tax Officer Mark Stieber joins us live via Zoom to chat about what we need to know before the clock runs out. Thanks for being here. The IRS says the average refund is up about $350 this year. Why is that the case?
That's on average with 100 million people. It's up because of some of that last year legislation and the new deductions and credits that are out there, starting with a $25,000 deduction for tips, a $12,500 new deduction for overtime, a $6,000 deduction if you're just 65 or older last December, $10,000 in possible deductible automobile loan interest if you bought a car, higher standard deduction, higher child credit, higher adoption credit, higher state and local tax deduction if you itemize. Added together, we're seeing much bigger refunds if you're in one of those impacted populations. And then, as he said, just overall with the 100 million returns in, up about $350. So there's a lot of money and a lot of good reasons to file your taxes and get that done and go get that cash.
Yeah, $350 is certainly impactful, especially right now as many people are struggling to pay bills. Let's talk about people who wait until the last minute. There are so many who have not even started the process. Is e-filing still the fastest and easiest way to do things, or can you go to a local tax preparer and get it done today?
Oh, you can go get it done today, and by e-filing, any professional will e-file. And e-file simply means doing it on a computer and sending it directly to the IRS rather than using the old Flat Earth Society paper version. So yeah, no matter if you do it yourself or you go to a pro, make sure you electronically file and make sure you electronically deposit that refund. No more paper checks. That adds weeks to your process. And don't miss the deadline. There's failure to file penalty, failure to pay penalty, underpayment penalty, interest compounding daily. You want to pay attention to the deadline, and there's plenty of help even here at the last hour. Nobody will be turned away from a credible tax professional. So go get it done. No good reason to wait, no reason to extend.
Yeah, you mentioned the direct deposit. I think that's important to note as well regarding safety. I mean, there are so many scammers out there. You really don't want a physical check sitting in your mailbox, right?
You don't want your tax return sitting in the mailbox either. Paper's just bad. Yeah.
Right, that has your social security number on it. Very valuable information for a scammer. What types of scams are you familiar with this year as they relate to tax returns?
There's no shortage. I'll simply start off with this. Like your mama said, if it sounds suspicious, it's probably bad. So ignore those things that come in a text to verify your information or email to verify your account. IRS does not text. They do not email, and they rarely call except to return a call. So beware the sketchy, janky pro that guarantees a refund. Every tax professional that you pay has to put their name and their P10, their prepared tax identifying number on there. If that's not there, that's a red flag, and you should ask up front, how much are you going to charge me? What are your guarantees? And if you don't get the answers you like, find another tax professional or even quasi-professional. There's plenty of good ones out there, but there's plenty of bad ones that creep in right now.
I'm thinking there might be someone watching at home who has been listening to what you've been saying and saying, wait, I already filed, but I forgot to deduct my overtime or my tips. Is there anything that can be done to remediate that?
Yeah, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is if you find out you left off the overtime deduction, the tax, tip deduction, the senior deduction, or any of the deductions having to do with life changes, and there's more of those, frankly, than tax law changes, you have 3 years to amend your tax return, file that with the IRS and a state, and get that money back. It's a pretty easy process. A tax pro can make it really easy. Now, the bad news. The IRS also has 3 years to come and ask you about something you might have left off that they're more interested in, because they're not looking to get you money, they're looking to get them money. So if you left off a W-2 or 1099 or small amount because Uncle Bob with TikTok told you that wasn't really required, you still have 3 years of risk that the IRS is going to ask, and as I say, 3 years to go back and add something you left off that gives you more money. So good news, bad news.
What happens tonight if, say, by midnight you have not paid and you don't file an extension?
Well, you don't burst into flame, that's for sure, but it is not a good thing. Aside from all those penalties and interest that we talked about that you're at risk of, if you're due a refund, like 3 out of 4 people, you're just not getting your money, and that's never a good thing if somebody owes you money. The long story short is, if you missed the deadline because you couldn't get to it at all, had to work, do it as soon as is possible. Some of the penalties, as I say, accumulate daily and compound, and if you take care of it in a week or so, there's a much lesser chance that it's going to be big, or that you can even ask for hardship forgiveness, as opposed to waiting till this summer or October saying, well, now I'm going to get around to it. That's a much worse narrative with much bigger consequences and much less likeliness of forgiveness by the IRS or state. So if you do nothing else and you're watching this tomorrow on replay, still go find a tax pro and get it done as soon as possible. That's still a better path.
All right, Mr. Stieber, thank you so much. Such great suggestions to keep in mind now and for next year. We appreciate your time.
Go get that money.